Hello, FleetReadyFam. Welcome to FleetReadyGaming. My name is Sivad. Welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be doing another episode of Sivad Reacts 2, covering the latest Inside Star Citizen video that came out today, March 30th, 2023. Before we get into the video, just wanted to let you guys know I have a couple tweaks set to the laptop's microphone to try to boost the audio levels. I've had some people mention that the audio sometimes comes off as soft, so we're trying to get that addressed until we can get our studio equipment back here in the next couple days. So let me know down in the comments section if the audio was a bit louder and if that helped at all. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, so Inside Star Citizen 150. More like 350. Anyways.
As the first quarter of 2023 comes to a close, we're hitting a few milestones here for what we call internally the Evergreen Content Team. That's the folks that are dedicated to the creation of weekly, recurring, some might say evergreen video content. For Inside Star Citizen, today's show represents the completion of our 4th year and 150th episode since that first evolution from Around the Verse in 2019. And when you factor in the legacy of ATV and Wingman's Hangar before that, we're now just passing the 450th episode of this continuing behind-the-scenes series unlike anything you'll find from any game developer anywhere else. And yet, somehow, still, we never show anything good.
I've been loving the humor that's,
It also marks the personal completion for me of 8 years shepherding over 1,200 videos showcasing the creation of this project. Even that one holiday live stream we don't like to talk about anymore.
Keep it up. Let's
double it. To sign us off for this quarter, before we go about our regularly scheduled hiatus, we're bringing back an old favorite, that grab bag of tiny looks at various aspects from all over development, the Sprint Report. Now, for those of you who maybe have never seen one of these before, a sprint is what we call the internal 2-week cadence where developers go off on a task, come back to check in, see everyone's progress, get some notes, and then either move on to something else or go back for another 2-week sprint on the same feature. So, what that means is what you're going to see here this week is actually internal developer art, the kind they don't usually make to be seen publicly. It's not the flashy and somewhat mentally unstable work of the ISC gameplay capture team, who have been on quite a streak recently, possibly because we changed their medications. So without further ado, let's jump into the Inside Star Citizen Q1 2023 Sprint Report and Clam Bake Showdown. I'm assuming that editorial will put a nice, subtle title on screen right here. Also, there's no Clam Bake Showdown. I don't know why I said that.
How dare you, Jared? I was.
Let's start things off with some spacecraft and vehicles, where there was recently a small onboarding task for a new hire to update the remote turrets for the 600i from Origin, which you can see here.
Does look good.
I think we can all agree it's a noticeable improvement over what's in the game today. And if you watched last week's ISC on the upcoming changes to tractor beams in Alpha 319 and beyond, you might have noticed the Argo SRV flying around in that Beyond section. Here's a closer look at its progress as it currently makes its way through final art towards a scheduled release later this year.
Tugboat ready to tug.
Now, for those who follow the progress tracker on the public roadmap, here are your first looks at 3 vehicles currently making their journeys throughout the pipeline. Starting with the RSI Lynx Rover, companion sojourner to the famous Ursa we all know and love, an often found package with the luxurious Constellation Phoenix. It's currently in gray box phase, and it's nice to see the RSI styling continue to evolve. Especially with those tires. I mean, I'm not usually a tires are cool dude, but those are cool tires, right? And as we move inside, we can take a look at the cockpit coming along.
Very clean looking.
And then there's the rear, which is at the back, and which is already far more fancy than its Ursa brethren.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I thought the tires were cool, but can a chair also be cool? Because that looks like a comfy-ass chair.
Yes, it does.
Can I say that? No, I just edited it out. Yeah, it'll be fine. Good job. There's also the Crusader Spirit, which just entered Gray Box phase recently. You can see here early work on the exterior, making certain every part of it matches the metrics laid out in the white box phase before it. Then,
sorry, going to pause for half a second. Super excited for the Spirit series. I have the E1 variant. Looking forward to using that kind of as a half VIP transport for fleet operations, as well as kind of a VIP transport for the passenger transport courier gameplay. Once that finally gets in, make some money on the side doing that when I'm not really feeling combat or logistics. And, I guess it's a little bit of a different type of logistics, but definitely looking forward to that finally being in game. And then with the bomber version and the cargo version, it's going to be fun.
Popping in through the rear of the ship, which, like the Lynx, is also in the back. And then into the cockpit that's looking, well, a bit contrasty at the moment. But that's not uncommon for Gray Box phase, as this period is mostly about defining shape language and material breakup before everything gets refined later in final art phase.
It's definitely, Crusader style.
And then let's take a look at the Gray Box bomb bay for the bomber variant that's being worked on in tandem with all the others. Finally, let's look at recent Gray Box progress on the Apoa Santok Yai, the alien Shion fighter, where you can see the exterior coming along pretty well. The thrusters are being modeled out.
Nice. Got a little bit of animation too, that's fun.
And they've started exploring how the landing gear will work, experimenting with the shape language a bit to make certain they're beefy enough to believably hold the mass of this entire ship when all is said and done. And as for when you're going to see the 600i turret, the Lynx, the SRV, the Spirit, the Santok Yai, and more make their way into the persistent universe, I'd recommend, as always, keeping an eye on the public roadmap for details when they become available. Now let's move from ships that fly to winged creatures. As astute readers of the monthly report might already be aware, one of the many things the AI team is currently working on is pushing Boyd's development in the persistent universe. Now, Boyds are the algorithmic behavior of small creatures that can populate the planets and moons of the persistent universe, with a test here of condors slowly learning to avoid flying into mountains or drowning in the oceans beneath them.
Nice.
Dun 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 Condor Man.
Jared has
Nobody,
too much
huh?
Fun.
Just me. And then some work on ocean fish. Here, completely, totally, and utterly unanimated. It's just a test of behaviors here, people, without all the motion parameters that'll make them look good one day.
Give us fishing.
Now, I'm including this as a test. If I see all you out there on the internet's like, these Star Citizen fish look great, I'm gonna know you don't listen to a word I'm saying. My feelings will be hurt.
Meanwhile, the Interactables team, formerly known as the Props team, have been running through and physicalizing a bunch of assets for the persistent universe, like these weights for gyms like the ones you might find in New Babbage. Similar to the fish we just watched, this is also before animation has had their chance to contribute, so let's not judge the throwing form being displayed here. Still, it's nice to see even the littlest things in the verse behave naturally with realistic mass and physics whenever possible. This effort to make things behave as you'd expect them to also extends to the coffee machines of the verse, with a pass recently done to go through and repair their broken functionality.
Get one of those.
Now, I did consider turning this section into an update on either bartender or mess hall features, just for old time's sake. But someone who will go unnamed stopped me. Just know that there are heroes out there looking out for each and every one of you. Also, it looks like the team developed a few new coffee mugs along the way. We'll just let this video play for a bit, see a couple coffee cups in action, and think about how much bartender stuff I'm not talking about right now.
Also, speaking of bartenders, if you want some interactables of your own, there's this new set of Star Citizen pint glasses up for pre-order on the web store. I asked if they wanted me to promote them, and they said no, because you'll probably do something silly and stupid with it. And I said, leave it with me. And they said, what? No, we said no. And I said, no problem. And here we are.
Back to the Interactables team, they've also been prototyping a new way to hang a variety of posters on the walls of the player habs and spacecraft with these new expanding electronic devices that could let you decorate any space that's marked up for them.
Oh, that's sick.
The prototyping here is using common adverts for in-universe events, but the possibilities of this feature become apparent very quickly in allowing players to not only decorate their spaces, but to collect and memorialize important moments from their time in the persistent universe, to take missions to set up flyers for in-game shops or events, post bulletins for bounty missions, and much more.
Posters for events
and this last bit is from both the Interactables and Mission Feature team, who have been developing the next dangerous new contraband to sweep its way through the persistent universe, grasping weevil eggs. Grasping weevil eggs. What's the file name?
Oh, no, that's what it is. Huh.
Let's switch on over to the environment, planetary, and lighting team's work with these images of updated atmosphere progress for the planet Hurston, which adds a stronger layer of pollution much closer to the planet's surface that helps suck light out of the atmosphere, add a richer gradient, and really just makes the place seem dirtier overall, which we can expect to play very well with the upcoming Loreville 2.0 and Alpha 3.19, some of which you can see here. I'm just gonna let these images speak for themselves a bit.
In fact, they do. That's awesome. I mean, Hurston's supposed to be a smog world, so... very cool.
And we'll take a deeper look at how light, atmosphere, and the new cityscape all come together in Alpha 3.19 when ISC returns from hiatus in just a few weeks. And while the atmosphere of Hurston is getting a little love, so too are the verdant forests of Microtech. As part of a greater overall overhaul we'll be discussing more of in the coming months, the forests of Microtech are receiving a performative refresh that will make the environment seem richer and denser visually, while providing more gameplay opportunities for cover during missions, racing, and other activities galore. The landing zone teams have also completed a sprint adding additional mission locations scattered around the planet Crusader in the style of resort hotels that can utilize overlays for pleasant, in-use active businesses, as well as those taken over by the ever-present and vile Ninetails. Each new cluster is designed to be a procedural home for a variety of mission types, and looks to draw players out from Orizon and into the far corners of the gas giant.
Sick.
And down on the surface of Hurston, work is underway on an early white box phase of local law enforcement offices, a place for players to utilize the next evolution of bounty hunting gameplay we'll discuss more about later this year, to collect, or in this case, drop off the captured bodies of criminal outlaws collected by players. Now, the drop-off here is right up front, because in early tests, it was getting kind of weird just walking through the hallways, pushing bodies deeper and deeper into the facility. Unless you're into that sort of thing. Moist noodle. You can then also check out the bounty boards to collect new missions here, or go forward into the shop and resupply as needed.
Can't wait for more bounty hunting stuff. That's gonna be awesome.
And there's an office for meetings, but who needs more of those in life? And then we bring ourselves to the detention area, where a number of cells can vary from location to location. I suspect that many of you will be looking forward to spending your time anywhere else besides Kleischer, even if it's just a jail and not a prison. Also in white box is the pre-production blockouts for a variety of building interior modules that will fit inside the towering skyscrapers of New Babbage on Microtech, being developed and tested in situ simultaneously to work out and discover anything developers might not have considered or recognized as necessary in the original mandate. The idea here is that once the player lands, they would enter this particular interior from the very top, encountering a lobby and expected elevators. Then, after a brief trip down, emerge into a number of different interior modules such as block of player apartments seen in the example here.
Player apartments, nice.
And speaking of modular interiors, the Montreal Tools team continues their work refining the very process used to make locations for the persistent universe, including several sprints on something called the PU Locations tool, a plugin that artists and designers can use to build and iterate modular locations quickly for the various star systems of the persistent universe. What you're seeing here is the PU Locations tool fully integrated.
Sorry, gonna pause for a second. Man, we're only like halfway through this thing. That's awesome. I mean, these sprint report videos are always so dense and so awesome to see what they have been actually working on behind the scenes and getting a glimpse of what's to come. It's perfect. Before we got any further, I wanted to mention a couple thoughts with the Microtech Forest being reworked. I'm curious if they are using the tech that they showcased for Pyro about a month or two ago. I'm not sure if we had covered it in a video on this channel, but they had showcased some of the new scattering technique techs that they were using, both for plant life as well as for rock geometry. That looked really, really nice. They had used it on the beach as well as on some of the other more inland locations in Pyro, and some of the Pyro moons and planets. But very cool stuff. And gosh, the bounty office, that's so exciting that I can't wait to finally have that in game. And like many of you have been mentioning on the channel here over the last couple of days, more options for non-lethal takedowns and capture of targets and victims, depending on what side you're on. Super exciting stuff.
Into the game editor, where this person has decided they wish to create a space clinic in Pyro. No doubt a location players will visit quite often in the lawless frontier that awaits. Next, let's cook the first module, which is the lobby and includes the relevant connectors necessary so that the player can traverse from one room to the other without falling through into the cold depths of space. It's important players feel safe in their space stations, at least from the environment art. Legal note, this does not extend to elevators, which are a unique curse upon players and developers alike.
True that.
Next is what's called the Universal Room, which is a super fancy programmer term for hallway. They know it's true. We can even change the seed if we don't like that particular hallway and generate another and another, each one creating the various connectors needed for us to continue building. And then some side rooms, or in rare cases, a rear room, which is usually at the back. Some shops like the pharmacy. Oops, and a cert. I'm going to leave that in there for solidarity with developer pain.
Can't show us a whole bunch of javelins duking it out.
Now let's go inside and start cooking some overlays, which is basically everything involved in the set decor that will further distinguish one space clinic from the next. Things are pretty generic at the moment, so we turn on our viz areas, check our tags, start the cook, and whoa, nice. We move forward. Looks like we forgot to cook a container. Easy enough. We're not going to put rooms here, so let's go ahead and start closing these connectors off. And then we can cook us up another overlay for this side room here. Nice. And this process is repeated in all subsequent rooms, and overall it's another terrific example of how game development is exponential and absolutely non-linear in progress.
Now, as asset libraries are built and grown and tools are conceived and iterated on, the progress you can make at one point should be exceeded by the next, and overall becomes a continuing reminder that the struggle of what comes before is necessary and right to birth the improved technologies, efficiencies, and general effectivenesses of everything that comes next, including a new version that does everything you just saw in one click that recently became available to developers.
And while we're talking
awesome
new
to hear.
technologies, let's wrap things up this week with some work from the PU character art team, which had a small sprint working to convert some of our older legacy assets to newer resources that have been developed over recent years, including
Nice.
Layer Blend V2 and the ability to spawn items with specific levels of wear and decay. So this means that not every version you find out in the verse is going to look exactly the same. The team is also using the opportunity to discover more chances to further modularize existing armors like the Nomad and Light Outlaw you're seeing here, as well as many more
you
you
hit
will be
100%,
showcasing later this
it's a
year.
work in
It's
progress.
part of a
It's
continuing
not
effort
bad.
to add more customization to what you wear in both the new stuff that's coming down the pipeline and what's already there in the persistent universe. And that customization also extends to a variety of tints that can be used for spawning armor variants within the universe, which you can see in some early explorations here. This will allow mission and location designers to specify specific
Looks good.
variations of components and tints for different areas, or use procedural tools to randomly generate dozens and dozens of variations for each outfit. And when that gets extended to many of the outfits already within the universe, this will get us a far greater variety of things within the persistent universe than we have today.
And oh heck, I know I said we were gonna wait until our last big segment on Lorville in just a couple weeks once we return from hiatus, but let's go ahead and leave you with just a few shots of the absolutely fantastic work the lighting team is doing, bringing this new Lorville 2.0 to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut up and let several thousand words of images do the talking instead.
I mean, if this is actually in game, in engine, that's absolutely beautiful looking. Some of them almost look like concept art. That's fantastic.
So what did we
That's
learn
awesome.
this week? Well, we learned that there are, as always, a lot of ships and vehicles in the pipeline, all scheduled to make their way to the persistent universe throughout the remainder of this year. That work to bring fauna to the persistent universe is back on the menu. That grasping weevil eggs are a thing, as is the continuing work to physicalize as many aspects of Star Citizen as possible. That locations, new and old, continue to be iterated on and improved upon, as do the tools our team members use to create them, and that, boy howdy gee willikers, I'm pretty certain we're just gonna park the only constant outside Lorville at night for all of Star Citizen Live next quarter.
Jared.
Now, as we're at the end of this quarter, ISC is going on its regularly scheduled hiatus, but the work doesn't stop there. Next quarter, we'll be back with our final looks at Lorville 2.0 before it goes live in Alpha 3.19. We're going to take a deeper look at the vast changes and improvements coming to Arena Commander after that, as well as the new derelict settlement towns, new player experience tutorial, a sequel to the buggy racetrack in Orison, but for Microtech, explorations of the new ships and vehicles arriving at this year's Invictus launch week, a discussion with superstar concept artist Gavin Rothery about envisioning more ships for Star Citizen than anyone else alive. We're going to look ahead to a whole bunch of new features coming in Alpha 3.20, and then of course continuing our journey to 4.0 here and there along the way. It's been one hell of an 8 years, and the last 4 of them bringing 150 episodes of this show to you has been a blast. And we're still getting better at doing so each and every week. Now, I can say that because I'm not talking about myself. I'm referring to the talents and work of Will, Dave, Alex, Casey, Jill, Stephanie, Amanda, Caroline, Tom, David, Luke, Justin, Jake, Vicky, and now Mercy. Welcome to the team, who have all made this last year the best one yet. Thanks for putting up with me, and here's to another
professional, that's for
150 more. Oh, and if you've noticed and liked the 10 different memes that have been here on the screen all quarter, we'll be releasing to the social media later this week. I can tell you they make great phone wallpapers. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for watching. Thanks for 150 episodes, and we'll see you back here in about a month.
Still got a little bit more. Okay. That needs to be a finishing move. This is just a whole bunch of elevator death. Yes, CIG, be more creative like this. This is some hilarious stuff. Hmm. It's too funny. Too funny. Good way to end the quarter, I guess. Wow, that was a lot to unpack. That was a great episode. 22 minutes 43 seconds. Was not expecting it to be that long. Also, did not know this was the last episode of the quarter. Hiatus time is always difficult. 3 weeks of no new videos, so that's going to be a starve for content for us. It's always rough. But this one was definitely well watched. We'll definitely watch it a few more times to really soak in everything that they mentioned, and keep an eye out for any Easter eggs that may have hidden in there. But let me know what you guys thought about it. What was your favorite part of the video? I mean, personally, for me, um, I think the bounty hunting office was my top part. I mean, I love always seeing the ships. That's always great. But you know, we've already seen so much with the Loreville 2.0 that I'm just ready for that to drop. It was nice seeing the added effects and the lighting finally being, added to it. It looks beautiful. Super excited. Um, but yeah, I think the bounty hunting locations and everything that entails has me very excited. But yeah, let me know what you think. With that being said, we're going to end the video here. It was a much longer one than usual for IIC, but it was a good time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. And if you're not already, subscribe. It really helps us out. We're currently sitting at 84 members. Our ticker is always a day off. Gonna have to make a meme about it here soon. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.